They told us crypto was the future, fast, decentralized, borderless, and free from the chains of traditional finance. But behind the promises of wealth and innovation lies a darker truth. A story of energy drained, communities disrupted, and entire nations shouldering the environmental cost of someone else's digital fortune. This phenomenon has a name: crypto colonialism. It's the practice of large-scale crypto mining operations setting up in developing nations, lured by cheap electricity and lax regulations, while leaving behind a trail of environmental destruction, social inequality, and unanswered ethical questions. The shiny promise of blockchain may look like liberation, but for many vulnerable countries, it's starting to look a lot like exploitation. So how did crypto mining evolve from a niche experiment into an ecological juggernaut draining the resources of the world's poorest nations? And as the debate over energy, equity, and ethics intensifies, are we witnessing the beginning of a new kind of digital colonialism, one that doesn't seize land but electricity, water, and air? To understand this unfolding crisis, we need to start with the brutal reality of crypto mining itself. At its core, Bitcoin and similar proof-of-work cryptocurrencies require enormous amounts of computing power to validate transactions and secure the blockchain. These computers don't just sip electricity, they guzzle it. In 2023 alone, Bitcoin mining consumed more electricity than entire countries like Argentina or the Netherlands. Picture that: one digital currency using more energy than a nation of tens of millions. And unlike traditional industries, crypto's consumption doesn't produce food, housing, or transportation. It produces strings of code that translate into profit for a select few. But where does this energy come from? Increasingly, it's extracted from the cheapest sources available. And that often means developing nations whose infrastructure is already strained, and whose populations end up paying the price. Take Kazakhstan, for example. After China's crackdown on mining in 2021, thousands of rigs migrated across the border, drawn by coal power and lower costs. Within months, the country's grid buckled, blackouts became common, electricity prices spiked, and the government had to restrict power to crypto farms to prevent collapse. Ordinary citizens, families, hospitals, and schools were suddenly competing for electricity against massive mining warehouses filled with humming machines. The miners made millions, the people were left in the dark. And this is just one example. From Iran to Venezuela, from Laos to Africa, developing nations are being transformed into energy sacrifice zones for crypto wealth that rarely benefits locals. The environmental toll is staggering. Most of the electricity used in crypto mining still comes from fossil fuels, particularly coal, which means that Bitcoin's carbon footprint rivals that of some major industries. Studies estimate Bitcoin emits over 70 million metric tons of CO2 annually, comparable to the entire emissions of Greece. In regions already grappling with climate change, droughts, and pollution, the additional strain from mining makes fragile ecosystems even more vulnerable. Rivers are diverted to cool mining facilities, forests are cut for new infrastructure, and entire regions bear the brunt of air pollution and carbon emissions, all so that a global elite can chase digital wealth. But beyond the environmental devastation lies the issue of equity. Who really benefits from crypto mining in these nations? The narrative often suggests that mining brings investment, jobs, and development, but honestly, the reality is lopsided. Farms are usually foreign-owned, and their profits are siphoned out of the host country. Jobs, when they exist, are minimal, since automated rigs require very little labor. Meanwhile, local communities have to deal with higher bills, degraded air and water, and electrical grids that are, well, under siege. In some cases, governments even subsidize electricity for miners, which means they're effectively using taxpayer money to support foreign corporations, while citizens face rationing. This is exactly why critics call it crypto colonialism. a modern form of resource extraction where wealth flows out and, unfortunately, the costs remain behind. The ethical questions are massive. Is it right for corporations to drain electricity from nations struggling with poverty and unstable grids? Should a blockchain transaction in New York or London come at the cost of blackouts in Central Asia or Africa? And, well, what responsibility do crypto investors have in ensuring that their profits don't come from environmental harm in places they'll never see? These aren't abstract dilemmas, they're human consequences. In some regions, schools have had to cut power during peak hours because mining was prioritized. In others, water used to cool mining rigs worsened droughts. For communities already marginalized, crypto mining isn't a revolution. It's a reminder of the same old pattern: powerful outsiders exploiting local resources for profit. Supporters argue mining can bring positives, and this is where the debate gets complicated. Some point to cases where operations use stranded or excess energy, hydropower plants with surplus output, or flare gas that would otherwise be wasted. In theory, mining can create an economic use for underutilized energy sources, boosting development. And in some cases, crypto revenue has helped governments under sanctions, as in Iran, where Bitcoin became a way to bypass restrictions. But even these raise questions. Does using stranded energy justify the environmental impact? Do the communities themselves benefit, or are they, just pawns in a global digital game? Then there's the technological debate. Can crypto evolve past its destructive footprint? Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency, shifted from proof of work to proof of stake, reducing its energy use by over 99%. Advocates argue this proves crypto doesn't have to be an ecological disaster. But Bitcoin, the largest and most influential, shows no sign of abandoning proof of work. As long as Bitcoin dominates, the global energy and ethical debate will rage on, and developing nations will remain caught in the crossfire. The term crypto colonialism, really reflects a deep historical echo. Colonialism in the past was about land, resources, and labor extracted for empires. But today, the resource is electricity, the empire is digital wealth, and the colonies are nations desperate for investment, willing or unwilling to trade stability for the promise of crypto. It forces us to ask whether crypto is truly democratizing finance or whether it's just, replicating old systems of exploitation in shiny new clothes. And the answers aren't simple, because while blockchain has real potential, financial inclusion, decentralized systems, resistance against censorship, its environmental and social costs just cannot be ignored. So what comes next? Well, governments are starting to push back. Kazakhstan imposed new taxes and regulations on miners, while countries like China have outright banned mining. Activists are demanding global accountability, calling on companies to disclose energy sources and carbon footprints. Some nations are tying mining to renewable projects, though, skeptics wonder if this is enough. Ultimately, the future of crypto depends on whether the industry can evolve past its extractive phase, whether it can innovate not just for profit but for sustainability and fairness. Because if it doesn't, the label of crypto colonialism may become not just a critique, but the defining narrative of digital finance in the 21st century. And here's the bottom line. Crypto may be borderless, but its costs are not. They fall hardest on the people least able to bear them, in countries least responsible for the global chase for digital wealth. If crypto truly wants to be the future of finance, it must confront its role in energy exploitation, environmental damage, and social inequality. Otherwise, the blockchain revolution risks becoming just another chapter in the long history of exploitation dressed up as progress. So what do you think? Is crypto mining an unavoidable stepping stone to a better financial system, or is it just digital colonialism in disguise? Should nations ban it, tax it, or embrace it with stricter green requirements? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you found this deep dive eye-opening, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more breakdowns on crypto's hidden stories, And follow us so you never miss an update. Because this conversation is far from over, and the next chapter of crypto's future will be written not just in code, but in the choices we make about energy, equity, and ethics.